Recording.
Very good. Thank you so much. All right. Thanks, everyone. We're ready to start our meeting. It is December 14th, 2009. This is our Indigent Defense Commission meeting, taking care of November and December all together. And we'll try to move right along. I have a chair of the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council at 3:30, so I'm gonna have to watch the time pretty good. But I know this group got our quorum here, and this group tends to be pretty amazing discussion and sometimes small amounts of time. So we'll go through this the best we can. Thanks to all the members for prioritizing this today, even when you're not feeling great. So we'll just go around. I'll just be really fast with introductions. I see Katrina here, IDC staff, Pam Bickery, Commissioner, Wally, I forgot your last name. I don't know how I did.
Wally Bugden. I'm
That's it.
defense lawyer.
Yep, Commissioner. John Quorum, Commissioner. Josh, staff, right, Josh? Yep.
Yes.
Adam Troop, IDC staff. Matt Barraza, who is also the Executive Director of IDC. Casey Hopes, Commissioner. Margaret Lindsay, Commissioner. Mary Corporon, Commissioner. Mary, my brother-in-law, is John Hafen, who knows you really well, apparently.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's married to my sister. Yep,
Wow.
so fun. Small world, huh?
Yes, yes.
Funny. Amy Stocks, let's see, Amy, I'm sorry, I should know exactly who you are. You've got a super cool photo.
Sorry about that. I work for Salt Lake County Mayor's Office of Homelessness and Criminal Justice Reform.
Wonderful, thank you. And Michael Drexel, who's also Commissioner. So we'll get right to the agenda, and we'll kick it off with Matt Barraza talking about the governor's budget for the fiscal year 25.
Yes, the governor released his budget, I believe it was about 10 days ago, although this time of year just kind of gets warped. And so I don't know, don't quote me on how many days ago it was, but he released his budget. And just to review the process, we make requests as an agency as to what we would like to see funded to the governor's staff, and they process that and come to the governor's budget, which is what we are then able to advocate for to the legislature, what is contained within that budget. So if it's not in the governor's budget, we cannot advocate or lobby for anything beyond what's contained there. So what he approved for us is to transfer last year's one-time funding to ongoing. So that's we had $700,000 in new money last year. So that's going to be converted to ongoing. So those grants can continue, subject to the legislative approval, of course. And then also we're approved for one additional attorney for our appellate division, which is super busy, so they could certainly use the help. And then he did approve our request for money for the compensation project, the pilot project that we've been working on this last year to get in place. And so we'll be able to move forward with that pilot project and through that process, collect some good data to know where we go from there as far as trying to put the public defenders doing the work in line with the AG's office and what they're getting paid. So some good news. We didn't get everything we asked for. So as far as our grants, regular grant program that will outside of that move to ongoing, our budget will remain steady as that part is concerned, but we're excited to get that pilot project up and running. I think it's going to make a big difference for a lot of public defenders throughout the state.
Wow, that's awesome news, Matt. That's really good news. Welcome to Ryan Luce, another commissioner. Thanks, Ryan.
And congratulations to the father of the bride.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Wow, good news. I don't think that's a good way to start the meeting. Yeah, good job. Wow. So yeah, we've got a hope though, right? Because last year it got really funny in the actual session.
So now that we know what we can actually lobby for, Adam and I are gonna start making the rounds and focus on those who are the ultimate decision makers on that, so that we can ensure that we are able to get that funding in place.
Good. That's great news. Okay, well then let's go ahead and move to number 3, the innovation grant requests.
Okay. Let me just share some slides that I prepared for this. We sent out the link to the actual grant requests about a week ago. So hopefully people have had time to review those, but if not, I'll summarize those and present what we as staff are recommending for that. So just by way of review, the innovation grant is a new grant program. Usually in the past, we've had this non-lapsing funding that becomes available come January 1st. That's grant funding that has accrued over time where grants have been awarded, but they haven't been able to actually be deployed. And so that money remains with the IDC and it goes into our non-lapsing account. And in the past, we've used that funding for short-term grant requests, and a lot of times that's been for equipment, technology, and the like. However, we have a statute that allows for grants to be funded towards innovative ideas and projects. And that was something that was also given priority by the commission in our strategic planning session to implement that. So the language from the actual statute is there here, where it says that we can award grants that are proposed that are in an innovative manner. And so we sent out the notice of the grant opportunity. Hi, Rich.
Hey, Matt, am I the only?
Well, I thought that you and Commissioner Zimmerman might make your way down the hill after that meeting, so I set up in here. But let me broadcast this really quick to the TV so you can see it.
And we'll welcome Rich Morrow. So glad you could go in person, Rich.
No, sorry I'm late. I was at a CCJJ meeting that was somewhat spirited.
I'm 45, exactly, you moved away.
Yeah.
We've got some old Christmas movies we can play.
Accessibility shortcut, 14 items, voice cut,
Yeah.
off.
Too bad this is being recorded. Just have to find. There we go.
Might be driving.
All right, I'm gonna abandon this.
That's okay.
On the TV, Rich.
We should watch this.
Maybe afterwards we can pop some popcorn and take a look at that Jimmy Stewart movie, whatever that was. All right. So we had sent out the proposals for the grants, the notice of funding opportunity and listed the parameters for those. That's listed here. Again, this is going to be using non-lapsing funding. So that's only available for a relatively short window there from January 1st through June 30th. And we really wanted, we kept the requirements pretty broad because we wanted to encourage as much creativity and generate some new ideas for this. And we also wanted to promote the ideas that could be replicated throughout the state and other jurisdictions as well. So we received grants from 11 different counties throughout the state. So about half of a little over half of the counties that participate in our grant programs applied. The total initial request was $559,100,000. So a bit of a large ask there. Now, when I'm going to skip over that part that I forgot to edit out. When we found out from the governor's budget, though, that we weren't going to be receiving any additional new funding, then that meant that any of the grant requests that came through during that 6-month period wouldn't be able to be renewed. So they were truly had to be a 6-month period pilot. And so with some of those requests that we received, I reached out to the people who had made those requests and let them know that that those wouldn't be renewed. And so several of them said that they would rather not go through the trouble of trying to fill those positions and then not have them renewed in July 1st. So that brought the number down to about $300,000 in total requests. So we as staff went through those and we have some recommendations for y'all to consider. And some of the things that did come through, we didn't feel really reflected the parameters of the grant. For example, there were a lot of just routine equipment upgrades, people wanting to update their laptops. One system wanted to kind of do a little remodeling work in their office. And so we didn't feel that those were really innovative and replicable. Some requests included just routine annual conferences. So again, we didn't feel that that was really the spirit of the grant there, as well as some other just regular grant positions. So that some people were requesting like an additional attorney position, which didn't, again, follow the parameters of the grant. So those are items that we did not recommend right off the bat. So these are the ones that we are recommending. Yeah, sure. This is truly sharing our screen here in the truest sense of the word. So this is what we're recommending, and I'll go through these one by one. It's not a large list. Grand County had recommended or had asked for a assistant position to attend family team meetings. So this is in the context of child welfare cases. These are meetings that are held with the parents and DCFS. Typically, attorneys do not attend these meetings. The DCFS will usually send an admin assistant to take notes, and what Grand County wants to do is to fund a admin type person on the defense side of things to see if that would be a useful thing to have. They would take notes, and then also if things took a turn in the meeting and the attorney needed to be notified that they should hustle down there to that meeting, then the assistant would be able to do that. So that would be a part part-time, again, during that 6-month position, and then they would know whether that was something that would be something that they would go and ask the county to continue to fund, or if that would be, it had value in having somebody there at that meeting.
Matt, may I ask a question?
Of course, always.
Margaret and Pam, how helpful do you think it would be to have that welfare assistant? From your perspective?
From my perspective, I think it would be invaluable. So often what occurs in those meetings ends up reported to the court at the next hearing. And to have our own set of notes and our own record as to what occurred and what was said, I think would help tremendously in terms of ensuring the accuracy of information from the state or reports of the guardian ad litem that's presented to the court, as well as, you know, just the comfort level of parents knowing that someone is there on their side taking notes and ensuring accuracy in addition to the notification ability.
Excuse me.
Because
Pam,
our attorneys just
let-
make all the team meetings.
Yeah, well, that makes sense to me, and that seems like it would be really helpful.
Yeah, that was a great question, Wally.
And I
Michael,
think. a
Well,
great
go ahead,
idea.
Margaret, go ahead.
Oh, I think it's a great idea.
Thank you. Michael Drexel, you got a question?
Yeah, thank you. I'm always surprised to hear that attorneys don't attend those family team meetings. When I had the contract out in Uintah County for a few years, I didn't miss a single family team meeting as the attorney on the case. I was at every single one of them, and it's where so much of the case gets decided. I wonder if by supporting a request for this type of innovation, we're actually discouraging attorneys from being in those meetings and representing their clients. In that context.
Yeah, I mean, part of it, Michael, I think is just sometimes has been caseloads and court calendars as opposed to team meetings. Some of it has been, frankly, that the AGs don't want to go. And therefore they're precluding their clients from speaking in doing meetings without attorneys. You know, I think there have been cases where I would just, you know, sometimes you just have to push back and say, well, that's fine. I'll just request a 30-day review then. But I do think even there, I think having someone that can be able to take notes and to provide a record would be helpful. But I agree with you to the extent, any extent possible that we can get our attorneys at those team meetings, all the better, or social workers.
Right. Yeah.
But I wonder if it could go the opposite direction too, Michael, in that, you know, if you have these two sets of notes and it's consistently showing that what's being reported by the DCFS worker is not what the assistant is writing down, maybe that will encourage the defense attorney that she really needs to be there present to keep an eye on things.
Yeah, that's a good point, Matt. Thanks.
Hey, Mike, do you have a sense about what best practice is in this field? Is it best practice to have the lawyer available and to be at these meetings? I don't do child welfare work, so I'm not sure I know or understand what the protocols are.
Well, I appreciate the question. I'm far less well situated to speak about best practices, seeing as I only had the contract for a few years. So my experience is limited. I will tell you this, though, just in my limited experience, I can't imagine representing a parent and not being at those meetings, because almost everything of substance in the case happens in that meeting. And then what gets reported in court is just kind of a collateral consequence, really, it's secondary to what's going on in the family team setting. It would actually be better to be in the family team meetings and not be in court most of the time, it seems to me. But
And my follow-up question on that is, do you have a sense now of, you probably don't, being at the court, but I mean, does anybody on the call have a sense about what's the percentage of time that lawyers are? Because I mean, it sounds to me like this is probably a job for the lawyer. I mean, I'm kind of concerned if lawyers are not attending these meetings. That sounds like it could be problematic if there are substantive issues that are discussed. While I think an assistant is better than nothing, it sounds like that may actually be a role for the lawyer to play because it's such a critical meeting to the outcome of the ultimate case.
Yeah, great question. Adam, are you wanting to speak up kind of to that?
I would, because we've been working on this issue with people around the state, and Michael and Rich, you're both right on target. There's no question that the lawyers are a huge benefit and should be there as often as possible. Margaret's point about caseload does create, that is one of the problems, right? Too much time required to be in court and too many child and family team meetings to get to. But that's not the situation we're talking about here, right? We're talking about brand. I do like this idea for the short term because it gives the managing defender the ability to make certain somebody is there while working with the lawyers who are doing the child welfare cases. We're talking about it as being able to be reproduced only if we find a definite need from a system in future, right? The managing defender in Grand County is new. She's trying to keep track of all the contracts and make certain that they are funded and they're covered. And what I think she's trying to do is find resources for people for the short term to see what does work. So that's my answer to that question. But I will say this is an issue that we're working on in different places around the state, Michael, because you're right. They do need to be there. If there's social work around the case, that's beneficial, but yeah, they should be there. And there's been a big fight in Davis County over some issues around this because the lawyers do want to get there. So that's all I have to add.
Thank you. Okay, if we had enough discussion about that one, that was fantastic discussion. Want to continue, Matt?
All right, yes, our next recommendation is out of Iron County. And so the situation there in Iron County is that there is they are continuing to use a lot of remote court there. The judges there seem to prefer that in many ways and for many hearings. And so clients who don't have reliable Wi-Fi, they've set up a station there in the courthouse that people can go log in and have court. And I guess the judge is probably at home or somewhere else. And so it's a little ironic doing remote court from the courthouse itself, but that's the situation they have there. But that location is not ideal for the people there because it's not very private. It's actually in the middle of kind of the lobby area of the courthouse. And so if you're trying to have confidential conversations with your attorney, it's not very conducive to that. And then also sometimes the subject matter of what's being discussed is not something that you necessarily want to have broadcast throughout the whole lobby there. So the request there is to set up a hub at the attorney's office. This would be at the managing defender's office space. We've been there and taken a look at it. There is several rooms available. And so she would set up a hub there for her clients to be able to come and for those who don't have that reliable setup at home, come to her office where they would have a designated spot. And it wouldn't just be for doing court. They could also do any kind of telehealth needs that they might have or any kind of counseling that they are doing online that would be available to them to use for multiple purposes there. And so that's the next item that we are recommending. This, again, this is different than just a regular technology update because it is it's a something that would be going through the county. And so this is technically it would be county property, but it would be housed there at that managing defender's office. Any questions about that one?
I have a question, man.
Yeah.
Did you say that there's availability? I mean, I like it because there's a whole bunch of, will they be able to use this also as, to have meetings with clients that are incarcerated? Do you know?
I don't think that that would be the purpose. This would be more for out of custody clients to come and be able to use that technology there. I think, you know, they have their own, the attorneys have their own laptops and devices and things like that they can use for things like that.
Is there availability of this service at the courthouse itself? For example, clients in the 3rd district, if somebody doesn't have the technology, they can come to the courthouse. Does that exist in Iron County?
So yeah, that's the what I was describing, where it's in the courthouse. There's a
Okay.
little pod there, but it's not very private.
Okay.
And they can only use it for court. They wouldn't be able to use it for other purposes. And sometimes there's a line to use to,
Okay, no, that's
use
fine.
it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that explanation.
Also out of Iron County, they're requesting a fund to be used for court-ordered assessments. So a lot of times as part of probation or pretrial, or a court will order somebody to get a mental health evaluation or other kind of assessment. And a lot of times, if somebody is not eligible for Medicaid, then those costs have to come out of pocket. And so there's kind of that missing middle section there where people are unable to afford an attorney, but yet they have enough income that they can't get these assessments paid for by insurance. And so it comes out of pocket, and it's often a barrier for them to be able to comply with the court orders. And so they're requesting a fund to be able to use to draw upon for those types of clients.
Clients for whom the court's made an indigency determination already.
Yep, exactly. Next, we have out of Salt Lake County, and this is an inclusion assessment. And what this would do is, Rich, feel free to jump in here because you're going to be more familiar than I am. But this would be an assessment that would be done by Ross Romero, who some of you might know. He's former politician here in Salt Lake County, but then he has a consulting practice where he will conduct an assessment of an office to see what the status is as far as their needs for any kind of structure or strategic plan to facilitate training regarding inclusion and diversity and being sensitive and aware of interacting with not only coworkers and staff, but then also clients. As we know, unfortunately, the criminal justice system is overrepresented people of color are overrepresented in the criminal justice system. And so this would help train the attorneys and staff who are interacting with their clients who are from minority groups on how to do that in a healthy and sensitive way. This study would be for both Salt Lake Legal Defenders and for the Juvenile Defenders Office as well. And so they would come with some recommendations based on that assessment. And I think that, again, going towards that, being able to replicate it, that I think we could also take a look at some of those recommendations and be able to spread those recommendations throughout the state as well, where that would make sense to do so.
Yeah. It's a little broader. I mean, it's training, it's recruit. It also, for us, it will also be part of a recruitment process. We within our organization, we have a group called JEDI, which is Justice, Equity, Diversion, and Inclusion. There's a lot of sort of complex ways that you can implement these sorts of things, both with training, education, within our staff, and having our folks be more aware of the need with that internally, both internally and externally. We also want to think about some creative ways of recruiting a more diverse staff. And we think Ross can help us with that he can help really educate us. We're hoping that Ross will be able to help us beginning in January with the training with our leadership group so that we can start at the top of our organization and have that permeate down through everybody in the group. It's a pretty broad, comprehensive idea of looking at all of these factors that go into both the internal work we do, the external work we do, and the relationships with our clients.
The next recommendation we have is also in Salt Lake County. This would be for the Juvenile Defender's Office, and this would be for a part-time holistic attorney. And Pam, feel free to jump in at any time if you want to describe this, but this would be a person who would be addressing different gaps that aren't typically covered by the court-appointed attorney. Specifically, that would be dealing with schools with their reentry plans when a kid has been brought into court and maybe that results in some kind of automatic suspension. The attorney could help be part of the school team in getting that person integrated back into school. That person would also be on call for consulting with kids before they decide to opt out of diversion type programs. Pam, could you actually speak to that diversion piece? Because I thought that was really important.
Yeah, so when the kids go into, if they're eligible for a non-judicial agreement, they go in and meet with probation. And sometimes, you have a kid who goes in and is like, the non-judicial doesn't actually require that the kid admit or say that they're guilty of it. They can also just decide they're going to take advantage of the non-judicial. But sometimes they have other questions about like if there's restitution or other types of things. And so there's a certain number of kids that say no to the non-judicial, and then the case gets petitioned. The prosecutor has to petition it. Then, we all get to court. So we have a court hearing with like defense attorney, the prosecutor, the probation officer, the judge. And really, like, we get there and talk to the kid for 5 minutes and they say, oh, I should have done the non-judicial. Okay. And then we all go back into court and then we file a motion to return it back for non-judicial. And then they go back and do the non-judicial. And what happened is a couple of months ago, actually 3rd District Probation reached out to us and said that they think somewhere between 12 and like 10, 15 downtown, and then an additional number maybe in the West Jordan courthouse where kids say no to the non-judicial, but really they think they would accept the non-judicial if they just had a few minutes to consult with an attorney. And so would we be willing to help and consult with those things to avoid having to petition those cases, have everybody have to have a court hearing, file the motion to send it back, and then have the kids have to go back and redo the whole meeting with probation all over again. And so we've been working with them with that to set up a way for them to just call and instantly speak with like this one attorney, so that when the kid is sitting right there, they can just take a few minutes to talk to an attorney about what is a non-judicial, is it a good idea? And like I said, the hopes is that it's ultimately going to save us like from having to like appear and enter notices of appearance and exchange discovery with the prosecutors on somewhere between 10 and 15 cases per month.
Wow.
Yeah, honestly, it's really fascinating to hear about some of these ideas, especially in Salt Lake, where you guys are bigger and have so much to think about and make better. Michael, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I love this idea. I did notice in the write-up that it said that youth often opt out of the non-judicial, but there's like 2,500 non-judicials in Salt Lake County every year, and this is like 120 of them, right? Maybe 150 of them. So it's not necessarily often happening, but I could see that it would be worth exploring whether there's savings on it.
No, yeah, absolutely. I didn't realize I put often in there or I don't think that's what I was going for. But Michael's right. The majority of kids accept the non-judicial. There's just this small percentage, but to us, 120 cases a year that we don't have to put, that the prosecutor doesn't have to petition and we don't have to schedule for a hearing would be good for us. But no, it's by no means often. I should delete that word.
Good catch, Michael.
And then, yeah, he's sick, but not that sick.
Right? That's
Um,
what I'm
Oh,
thinking.
quick. And then the person would also help with expungements. Is that right, Pam?
Yeah, just because we've been doing, we do like the pro bono expungement clinics and through UBJJ. And we've been able to do those, and UBJJ does give us a grant for that. But what it does is it pays the filing fee for the people seeking expungements. This past year, what we did is reserved a small portion of it to pay a law clerk to handle the administrative stuff, because like there's so much paperwork in the following up of the stuff. And so we've been doing that, but we thought with this, that would be a good idea to kind of like work to continue to build the expungement clinics and have that additional assistance to have to have an attorney be able to help with the non-judicial, the expungements for the clinics that we do. And then Matt said the school piece is really, I think, going to become a huge thing, is because what we've seen is, and I mean, we've always had issues with like school is so important to young people, and it's one of the biggest predictors for like staying out of continued delinquency stuff. And what we're seeing like after last year is like we've had an increase in the number of like notifications that are going, not necessarily, well, I mean, sort of an increase. It gets kind of a little complicated, but the amount of information going to schools and where it's going. And then what was also created last year through legislation is called a reintegration plan, where the kids, like if they have certain offenses, they have to have a reintegration plan before they can go back to school. And we worried about how that implementation would play out. And we're already getting a lot of feedback about kids getting, they're only supposed to be out for 5 days while the reintegration plan happens. And we're getting a lot of information from home detention about kids being held out much longer than the 5 days. And so we think having someone who could be an educational advocate for our kids to help advocate for like with the schools if they haven't had an IEP, or how to get the reintegration plans done so that the kids can get back into school. Because if we have a kid who's obviously been removed from school and then they're just home, and the reintegration plan while they're out for that time frame doesn't require the schools to be providing school resources during that time. I mean, theoretically, if you're out past 10 days, they're supposed to be providing home schooling options and things like that. But we're just seeing a lot of struggles with that stuff. So we're hoping that a holistic attorney could kind of help us build in these 3 different areas, because, and back to the expungement clinic, we just completed an expungement clinic on December 1st. And that one we advertised pretty quick for, and it went pretty quick, but we really only had 18 participants. And I think that we're always trying to build the numbers of people. We take people on a as needed basis as they come in, but if they want the use of the grant, they wait until the clinics and stuff like that. And so I think that having someone that could help us with the court hearings would be super great.
Yeah, that's amazing to learn about. I just barely learned about expungement, how kind of the status of that in Utah from Noella Sudbury. And wow, what an amazing work, and kind of proud of our state in that space, sounds like. Yeah. Good. Any other question on that one? All right, let's keep going.
Okay, Uinta County, similar to Iron County, and I don't know if they spoke or if they just both had this great idea of having the fund for to be able to pay for assessments for their indigent clients. So same concept there, having a fund where they can pay for court order assessments that they otherwise wouldn't be able to afford. Utah County has an interesting program that they proposed, and Margaret can speak to this if she would like to, but there is a training program opportunity where they can do, their social workers can do an online training in the child welfare arena for this program called the Nurturing Parent Program. And it's a more specific trauma-informed training, and recognizing that a lot of the parents who come through the child welfare court are victims of trauma themselves, and helping them to understand that, and having that be the lens through which they look at their own parenting styles and decisions, and helping them to recognize some of those obstacles that they need to overcome. so they can do this online training and get certified and then be able to offer this training protocol in-house as part of, and offer that as part of a reunification plan to the court. Is that, how'd I do, Margaret? Anything you want to add on that?
Yes, that would be our hope. Every parent in a child welfare case is generally ordered to complete a parenting program. But the programs that are currently exist in the state and they're more generalized, or the peer parents, which is kind of more of a hands-on parenting program, are very hard to get into, and they're usually not utilized by the state until almost late in the game. This would be it's a parenting program that's more tailored to dealing with trauma, dealing with issues of neglect and abuse, that our social workers, and we would also train, I think, an attorney on it as well, could work with our clients and essentially create the parenting program for them through the use of these materials and this training, which we would hope to then take to the courts, per case, and ask that they be given credit as part for their parenting program with what their work on this class and this training with our social workers. And we also feel like it's something that then hopefully maybe could be taken, if it's effective, which we think it will be, statewide, through the social workers, or through another avenue. So we're excited about it. We think it fulfills a real need, especially when parent time and parent contact and family contact is so important, but so oftentimes things are delayed or get tripped up by the issues that we feel like this program could address.
Margaret, is it you might have said it and maybe I missed it, but is it a specific is that the name of it, a nurturing parent program? Is it a specific thing that you've already researched? Or
Yes, it is a specific program, and we could do the training either in person or online. We asked for the online so that we could get trained in order to teach and to utilize this program with our clients. We've also, asked for some equipment to go along with that. And part of it would be access to this forms and assessment tools database that is part of this program, that would then allow us to utilize those assessments and tools through our office, LCSW, or to be able to, create our own similar tools that we feel like would match up even better to our clients' needs for use in the future after that year.
Well, the things that I love about this innovation are that it's getting upstream, and that's a really big deal. And I'm certain it's probably trauma informed. And I was just in discussions this very week in another group in Davis County, that a lot of parents don't realize that their own challenges in parenting are a result of adverse childhood experiences, right? So they're kind of oblivious to it until they can start to get their eyes open to it. And sometimes that can be a real paradigm shift.
Yes. And I can't tell you, like, for example, how oftentimes we've heard that, well, we can't increase the family time, the parent time, because the parents says any inappropriate things, to the children. Well, this, in looking at would be more than simply don't do that. Would be exploring and utilizing the tools as to not only to hopefully correct any truly deficiencies there, but also they understand the why that dialogue and communication is happening. So our hopes is that we can really foster and hopefully speed up, increases in family relationships and family bonds. When that's a part that's just, we feel is really lacking in available services.
But John?
Thank you. And forgive my my ignorance, Margaret. I gathered that the participants can receive credit, but do they opt in, or is it court ordered, or how do we?
Well, they're usually court ordered to complete a parenting program. And there's a few of those. There's, some online courses like Love and Logic. Sometimes there hasn't been in the past a parenting kind of component to some certain therapeutic programs, rehab programs, or peer parenting. But we've just have found that those programs aren't really specifically hitting what we feel are the needs of a majority of the parents that we work with. And this is aimed to do that. And so we're hoping that, once we get started, that the court can see it and say, okay, this is the curriculum, this is what you've done, I'm going to give you credit for that. But even if that's a little bit slow to happen, we feel like the skills that we will be teaching the parents will aid in their reunification efforts a great deal. Sure, they don't have to do it, with us, and but they mostly are obligated regardless to do a program. So our hopes is that we can get them credit for this one, but we need to get it in place and get working on it before we can really seek that approval from the court itself. But regardless, it's just such important information and skill building that we think it's worth it.
Sounds awesome. I'm excited about it.
Thank you. All right.
All right. And that is the sum of our recommendations. The total response comes to just over $100,000 for that non-lapsing funding. And if anybody has any, I just at this point wanted to open it up for any questions. If anybody has anything that they really thought should be on the list in reviewing the applications and it's not on there as far as our recommendations go, I'm happy to have that conversation now. And then we can take a motion at the chair's direction.
Okay. Yeah.
Could we walk it back one slide just to see the completed list there again?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Hey, Matt or Madam Chair, I have actually a question. I think these are all really great and innovative ideas. Do we have, a plan in some way of like utilizing information that we get or that we learn from this? Because I think a lot of this could really be implemented in really long-term policy for the IDC. And I'm wondering, do we have, what are our thoughts? It is as hard sometimes as it is to really track data. I think we probably want to think about how we want to do that and how we actually, when we have the information or when we learn the lessons from implementing this, how have we thought about that in a little bit more strategic way?
Yeah. Well, again, this is a brand new grant program, but we have had internal discussions about, at the completion, from the outset, having a data tracking requirement for this, with the funds, right? How many people are you serving? Do you see any more success for those people on probation than those who didn't have access to the funds. Yeah, I know that Pam is already talking about, doing a lot of data tracking because she can then use the data that she gains from the short-term project to go to other funding sources to try and implement it more long-term that way. So yes, that is
Okay.
definitely something
Good.
that's top of mind with these, and at the end of the terms, we would be collecting that data and anything that we can replicate statewide or to other systems. That's definitely a big part of this. So great question.
Thanks,
That
Mike.
is, yeah, that's so important to think about, our whole purpose in all of this. Someone else, yeah, Michael?
You know, I liked the idea of the Cache County proposal to get a website that would be a tool to connect with clients and share information. It seemed like it lends itself to a one-time investment. I wondered your thoughts about why that wasn't one of the recommendations, and I'm suspicious that they can do what they've proposed for $8,000 to $10,000, but I did like the thought of having that be a go-to source of connecting with clients, answering questions and whatnot.
You know, I think as far as why that didn't make the list, part of that was just it is already common in a lot of areas, and so it didn't seem particularly innovative in some ways. But again, you all are the ultimate decision makers on this, and so if somebody wants to add that to the list, we wouldn't have a problem with that.
The thing that caught my attention was the number 4 bullet point in their proposal, which was that it could be used to update clients on status of cases and court dates and other important information. It sounded like kind of like a client portal in some regard. And I don't know what other areas of the state are doing with public defense in terms of connecting with their clients in that way.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, great question. We can certainly talk about that to add consideration. Casey, do you have something too?
I do. It was my understanding that this is one-time funding, but some of these like part-time holistic attorneys or welfare assistant could potentially lead into, are the counties able to absorb that if this really is one-time funding, and they want to continue with the program that they're starting?
So we have communicated to the managing defenders that this is, very strict. It's not going to be renewed by the state. I think that's why a lot of them withdrew some of the initial requests. As far as these ones that involve staff positions, it looks like the holistic attorney and the child welfare assistant, those would be the only two that involve actual staff time or staff positions. I don't know, to your question, whether Grand County would go to the county afterwards to see about continued funding or not. I know their budget is pretty tight as it is, so I don't know that they would be able to do that, but they have been informed that this would be just a term limited project.
And it is on contract, hourly and on contract.
Yeah, that's a great question, Casey. I had kind of similar things going in my mind. So looking at the list, it looks like Davis County does not have an application, but did they have one and then they didn't? No, well, they never did. Okay.
We didn't receive any submission from Davis County.
And then, like some of these ideas, I'm thinking, oh man, that would be something very helpful in Davis County. So I think it would be really valuable, and I'm sure you will, to share how these innovations work. And as you share, as all of those managing defenders all around help each other and talk to each other. And as we kind of convene all of that opportunity, I hope that Davis County, figures out what we can do and what I'm always a little bit sad, I bet Casey relates, when we don't have our own people applying for some things. But this it also makes me, Michael, with the question that we had, I know this was more in the pretrial world, but it perhaps translates to the legal defender world. Some of the gap that we have up here, could that have been an innovation that we try to fix, get funding for?
Yeah, I wonder. I don't know. That's a good
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, I bet so. And, just even, yeah, there's definitely services that cost that people need and they don't have money for. Anyway. And Michael, did you have your hand up to share
Yeah, I
again?
did. I actually like Casey identifying this idea of some of these things being tied to possibly ongoing needs in the future and whether the local entities will be able to support it. I spent a little time thinking about that as I reviewed these, and I thought one of the nice things about this sort of funding could be that it provides the data that programs need to convince their local government officials
Yes.
that it is a valuable investment of ongoing funds down the road. And without it, I think some of the entities would be loath to wade into the waters. So we can help bridge that gap with this one-time funding.
Yes. Thank you. Great point. Margaret?
I just had a question whether, Matt and Adam, whether the other Utah County requests, specifically, I was thinking about the software seed request to kind of improve efficiency and the stats and the technology improvements, whether that one was withdrawn. I hadn't heard anything.
No, it wasn't withdrawn, but that kind of fell into that that category of equipment and the like that we didn't feel met the parameters of the grant.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mhm.
Can I make one other suggestion on the assessments? Anything that would be paying for an assessment. Rule 1.8 of the rules of professional practice generally prohibit a lawyer from providing financial assistance to a client in connection with litigation. There are some exceptions for indigent costs and expenses of litigation. If we were to award grant money on that, I think we ought to do it in a way that is with an eye towards ensuring that there's continued compliance with Rule 1.8 of the rules of professional practice, so that we're not in essence encouraging people to walk right up to the line of possibly violating Rule 1.8.
That is a fantastic point there, and maybe that's something that we can, rather than having it doled out or distributed by the attorneys themselves, maybe it can be something that's done through us here at the IDC. So it's got a degree of separation there, so they don't run afoul of that rule. Great point.
So this total recommended is below the amount that we have available, right? Do I have that right, Matt?
Well, we didn't, in years past, we've kind of set a target as to how much we wanted to have available for this.
Yeah.
This year we got away from that because we didn't want to make awards just for the sake of making awards.
Yep.
We wanted it to be assessed on the quality and the value of the request. And so we don't have a target here. I like the number that it came to at that $100,000 mark. I think with some of the budget pressures that we have currently, I think that's a pretty conservative place to be, and I like where that's at.
Yeah, no, I think that's super wise. I would have totally said that similarly. We don't need to spend out what's not worth spending. I'm just looking back at the Cache County Innovation Grant application for that website. And and it's a $10,000 request. I'm reading just the brief description. The proposed project involves the creation of a user-friendly and informative website specifically tailored for our public defenders. By investing in a public defender website, we aim to improve the overall efficiency of our services and increase access to justice for indigent individuals. This website will serve as a centralized platform to enhance communication, streamline case management, and improve access to legal resources. And then they go on to list some key components. So I don't know. I think Michael said, should we consider that? Or maybe, I don't know. What's the group have any more to say about that?
Does anybody know if there's a sense about whether how that's different than their file management system? Because if you're going to create a separate website, there certainly needs to be protection about how those communications occur. I mean, I know nowadays, a lot of the modern file management systems have some kind of communication system, be it email or text messaging that you can do through the website. So I'm wondering, does Cache County have that, and how would this be different? Because I'm a little bit worried about a public portal that may involve communications with clients, and we really need to think about how to sort of separate those two, because I don't think we can have a public website that creates a communication vessel that isn't secure, because that really would be violation of work product, attorney-client privilege, and all of the other sort of professional responsibilities that we have. Is there any information about how that would be done?
Yeah, great question.
They do use Defender data. They have Defender data licenses. I don't know that from the application, I can't tell whether they were planning to try to integrate that somehow or not, or how much they've been utilizing it for that purpose.
Yeah, Pam said similarly, Matt, doesn't Defender data have the text messaging option, or is it almost complete in development? So, yeah. And then let's see, Michael, I think your hand up was first.
Oh, thanks. I agree. Rich has made a really good point there. What I do see about Cache County currently, at least, is that they have a Facebook page for their public defenders, and they have a cachecountydefender@gmail.com email address, which I think both of those things tend to reduce the legitimacy of their organization. And it doesn't stand on equal footing with other Cache County government services in that regard. And so even if it were a simple matter of just elevating the professional public facing professional image of the entity and the people who are doing the work, that alone might be a worthy innovation.
Boy, I'll say, yeah, good investigative work there. John?
Well, without knowing exactly how all of this would work, my only worry, from experience, I know that I prefer to have that contact with a client, that two-way contact, right? I want to be able to vouch for them. On so many occasions, I want to be able to vouch for a client while I'm in court when they don't show up, that I've actually communicated with them and something's up. If the website works the way I'm thinking it would work, my clients would go to the website, gather information, maybe communicate with the office or with me, but I wouldn't necessarily be able to communicate back with them in real time. And so that's something I would hate for us to rely on, that type of communication, as opposed to what we've been doing, which is texting them or actually speaking with them and calling them.
You know, maybe what we can do, since it seems like there's a lot of important questions to be answered with that particular proposal, is I can talk to the managing defender there and kind of tease out some of these questions and these issues, and we can bring it back at our next commission meeting with January. I think we could answer those questions, and if the commission wants to approve it, we could still have plenty of time in that 6-month period for that to be funded and built if that's what the commission wants to do.
That sounds like a great idea. Yeah. Is everybody good with that? Yeah. That'd be great, Matt. And even just that feedback that Michael, just a little bit of research. It is so important, right, to have that. Social media certainly has its place, but boy, I feel like this is way more serious work than that. I don't know. I'll go looking too. All right. Okay. Well, with that, then we've had an amazing discussion about all of this. I think I'm ready for a motion if someone's ready to do it.
I'd make the motion that we approve the staff recommendations that are listed here on the slide that we're all looking at in the Zoom meeting. But I would also add the Cache County proposal as one of the innovations that should be included there. And that would be part of my motion.
So does that mean to add it, or does that mean to have that discussion in our next meeting after Matt goes and learns a little bit more?
I think I'd like to add it as a recommendation right now to the list. And then if we learn more, then we can walk it back. But I'm afraid that by not adding it to the list of recommendations or list of things that that we see as worthy of innovation, it might not float back up to the surface, or we might, anyway, I'd like to add it to something that we could say we, as a group, as commissioners, want to see local government entities, defender organizations, trying to promote professionalism and the public facing aspect and the communication aspect of the work that they're doing in their jurisdictions, and that's a worthy innovation to pursue.
So you're recommending adding it as to be funded
Yes.
before we have further finding out.
And Chair Kamala, maybe I can kind of flip the order too of my outreach in that I can communicate to the managing defender the concerns that were raised by some of the commissioners and make sure that those concerns are addressed as he moves forward with the website.
Okay.
Yeah. Have the funding be contingent on making some amendments or some tweaks to his plan so that those concerns are addressed.
And do we know then, did you say, Matt, whether Defender Data can already do this? I guess they're imagining something that does more than what Defender Data does. Right?
Yeah, I think there's some things that can be done through their existing software management program. And so I can have that conversation with him and see if, maybe it's just a training issue as well. Maybe we just need to remind them of some of the functionality of Defender Data, and that can address some of those concerns.
Okay. They're
So-
part of a regionalization, what is it, Cache and who else together?
Box Elder
So just those two, okay.
and Rich.
Oh, Rich is also there. Okay, so there is a motion.
Well, so Madam Chair, but by way of point of clarification, on the motion, it sounds like we may need to do some kind of additional carve out with Cache, Box Elder and Rich. I mean, because it's not clear to me, because it sounds like we're funding it, but we're also funding it contingent upon additional information. Is that, I'm a little unclear as to what the motion is relative just to that one aspect of the staff recommendation.
Yeah, good question. Do you want to clarify, Michael?
Yeah, I guess my clarification would be that on its face, as a proposal to have a public-facing website that can represent the defense organization that's doing that work in that region of the state, that I see that as a worthy innovation, and that there may need to be some clarification about what functionality they're going to build into that website, make sure to protect the sensitive nature of confidential client communications, et cetera, and leverage existing functionality in other software that they might have access to, like Defender Data. But Defender Data is never going to be a public-facing website that represents the organization. And so I think just as on that proposal alone, the public-facing nature of this and communicating what they do, making forms available, and if they can even link to Defender Data's communication protocol through a secure, link on that website, it may fulfill part of their proposal. But I think it's a worthy sort of thing that we would want to see. I think it's a worthy innovation to explore in terms of how it benefits people who are being represented by public defenders.
Thank you for,
Thanks, that's clarifying, so thanks.
definitely. Okay, so there is a motion. Is there anyone who wants to second that motion?
I'll second it.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Margaret seconded.
Oh, great, thanks, Margaret, I didn't see or hear that. Okay, so there's a second by Margaret Lindsay. Let's go ahead and take our vote then. All in favor to accept all of these staff recommendations for innovative grant awards and in adding the one for Cache County. All in favor, please say aye.
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 I have a
Matt?
question.
Yes,
Oh, go ahead.
Do Rich and I need to vote aye and abstain from the Salt Lake piece?
I was gonna mention, Pam, that on the Salt Lake pieces, yours and LDA, I would be abstaining or recusing myself from that particular vote.
yeah, and I think we still have enough of our quorum that's fine to just assume, right? That the people with a conflict of interest are abstaining from their particular jurisdiction. Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, so we heard a lot of ayes. Is there anyone opposed? Please say nay. Okay. Sounds like we have a unanimous vote to go ahead and move forward with all of those and implement and learn from it all, and it'll be really great to gather data and see where it goes. And Pam put in the chat, she abstained from hers. Good job, Pam.
Sorry, that was delayed. We already answered it verbally before I typed. Sorry about that.
That's totally good. All right. Oh, that was really great. This group is quite amazing. All right. Well, I think I clicked on so many things to look at them that now I don't have the agenda, but if I remember right, we just are checking out our next date, right? And then we're pretty much ready to adjourn. Matt, you want to help us with that?
Sorry, I'm just reading a chat from sorry about that. Yes, I think the only thing that we needed to address is our next, it's a reminder on our next commission meeting. We'll be back to our regular schedule, since this one was kind of a mashup to get ahead of the holidays. So third Thursday in January at 2 o'clock, which would be
The 18th.
Is that during the session?
It is during the session.
Yeah.
The session this year begins on January 16th and it goes to March 1st, so a little earlier this year. So it is during the session, just barely, 3 days in.
Because some of us may be a little late. We will have a sentencing, I know Pam and I are on the sentencing commission. So we will have a meeting, I think that day from 12 to 2. And then we should be within that time period, but we may be a little bit late to the IDC meeting.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. That's a great heads up. I do see. Yeah, our normal time is 2 to 4, which we don't usually go all the way to 4. But if you're a little bit late, that might be still okay. I mean, probably would be okay if we can just have, enough to start with their quorum. So yeah, if people don't see a problem with that, we'll get back to our regularly scheduled timeframes. And we'll all be in the thick. I feel like it starts thick. It starts in advance and it starts thick. So we'll be in the thick of a lot of work. But that should be good, Matt. Let's plan on that.
Great.
You'll
We'll
get
send out some calendar invites for it.
Yeah. And honestly, to send them out for that year is also super helpful, right? And then we can adjust as needed later. Yeah, that's good. Okay, well, this is like perfect timing for me. I needed to be done by about 3:25 and it's 3:24. And I think we're used to taking a motion to adjourn.
I think, Chair Kamalo, I think we just need to ask for any public comment or business.
Oh, yeah,
before we-
thank you. Yep. Are there any people here to make a public comment to the commission?
See that
I
Lisa.
have a few thoughts I'd like to share for the holiday season, just to fill up this extra half hour. No, I'm just kidding. I have nothing to say.
You got very backlit and mysterious in that moment, Pat. Yeah.
Ghost of Christmas past.
My phone, my computer puts me in witness protection programs a lot, so.
Oh, I need that.
Oh,
Okay,
if that's okay, may I ask one?
Lisa, please.
Thank you. I'm Lisa Shepherd. I'm policy advisor with Commissioner Sakovic in Utah County, and this is actually my portfolio. And I was wondering, are there any bills that you guys have coming for this session that I should be watching?
Where do we start?
Yes,
Ready to start?
that's a separate meeting, I think, Lisa, just for the length of the discussion.
But yeah, I mean, like in a nutshell, we need, like, legal defenders need better pay.
Yes.
Is a big one. And then we know that we have a dearth of legal defenders in the state. How about that? I mean, those are giant, both of them. So how we're going about that is, of course, is going to take a ton of work and some strategy. I don't know what else you want to say, Matt.
Well, I think that probably that January meeting will be a good place to talk about pending legislation, bills that have been introduced and things that we are advocating for. So Lisa, I don't know if you can join us at that later date, but that might be a good time to talk about that.
Okay, I already put it on my calendar. Thank you.
And you came back. I was worried you were going to stay in New Zealand and never come back. So
I had this meeting, I had to make it back. Remember?
Well, I want to hear about your trip offline sometime.
Yeah, I would love to help advocate for anything that you guys have coming. It's very important to me.
Yeah, and that's so appreciated. Thank you. We have some others who have said they'd like to be helpful in this next session. And so it's super important. And, you know, Casey and I and all of you, we know legislators, we mix and mingle with them. Like, it's so important to help more and more of them understand what's going on in this office in the state Office of Indigent Defense. It's a super big deal. I'm sure Casey and I will have more opportunities when UAC gets together a lot during the session to help keep people apprised. Adam wanted us, Casey, to remind all of the commissioners and council members and UAC how much money is going to all the different counties, right? And that it is important that all of the counties are advocating for the work of this Office of Indigent Defense. So that was a good reminder.
May I say amen?
Yeah, right. Truly. Yeah, I mean, we were shocked last year when it seemed like, you know, key leading legislators didn't understand this still. We have some work to do for sure. Okay, well, very good. I often take a motion to adjourn, but this past week I was told, Ryan, is this true? I don't have to do that. I can just simply embrace my power and adjourn. Is that true?
You want to?
I'm just going to do it because it just sounds so wonderful and new. So with that, again, all of you, you're fantastic commissioners. I hope that those of you who are coughing are better very soon. And thank you so much for prioritizing this meeting today. It was just really a great meeting. Thanks to staff for all of your work. What a lot of great work. Thank you all. Have some wonderful holidays, and we'll be together soon enough.